I am Nicholas Collins, 35 years old, living in Dover, Delaware. My life used to be as peaceful as a gently flowing river, but then everything changed in the blink of an eye. I run a medium-sized gym located right in the heart of this small city. Medium-sized, yes, but to me it was a dream built from sweat and tears. I opened the gym 8 years ago after quitting my office job to pursue my passion for fitness. At first, everything went smoothly. Members flocked in, from young guys wanting ripped muscles to housewives looking to stay in shape. Revenue was steady, enough to pay off the loans for equipment and rent the space. I was even proud watching my clients progress, as if their success was my own. But then the pandemic hit. It was like an unexpected storm that swept everything away. The government ordered closures, and my gym, once filled with the lively clanging of weights, suddenly fell silent. I clearly remember the first day I had to hang the sign, temporarily closed due to the pandemic. My heart tightened, but I thought it would just be a few weeks and things would pass. I was wrong. A few weeks turned into months, then nearly a year. Members canceled in droves, calling constantly, "Hey, I can't train anymore, can you refund me?" Or, "I've switched to online workouts, sorry, but I have to cancel." I understood. Everyone was struggling, but each call felt like a knife stabbing my heart. Meanwhile, expenses kept piling up. Rent didn't stop. The landlord still sent monthly invoices with polite but cold reminders. "Hope you get through this soon." The equipment loans were even worse, with interest accumulating like an avalanche. I looked at the shiny treadmills and dumbbells lying idle in the dark, my heart wrenching. This was my dream. How could I let it die like this? I started scrambling. First, I cut everything possible. I laid off staff, keeping only my closest trainer, and did everything myself, from cleaning to bookkeeping. But it wasn't enough. I turned to the bank, hoping for a loan approval. I prepared thoroughly, a detailed business plan, revenue forecasts for reopening, even financial reports proving the gym had once been highly profitable. I sat in the bank office, clutching my documents tightly, heart pounding. The young staff member smiled politely, but a few days later the rejection email arrived. "Unfortunately, your application does not qualify due to high risk in the current pandemic context." I read it over and over, feeling like the world was collapsing. Not qualified. I'd done everything right. With no other options, I had to sell assets. First, small things. An old computer, some electronics. Then bigger ones. My BMW, the car I'd been attached to for 5 years. I bought it after the gym started turning a profit, as a reward for myself. Every morning driving it to the gym, I felt like I was flying on the road. Now I had to list it for sale online. The first buyer came, test drove it and haggled. "Sell it a bit cheaper, it's the pandemic." I gritted my teeth and agreed, but when I handed over the keys, tears nearly fell. It wasn't just a car, it was a symbol of my independence. After selling, I got some money, but it still wasn't enough. I borrowed from friends, calling everyone close. "Hey Nick, how much do you need? I'll send it right away." They helped, but everyone has limits. In total, I scraped together enough for short-term debts. But I was still short exactly $50,000 to keep the gym alive through this critical period. $50,000, the number that haunted me day and night. With it, I could pay rent, prevent equipment repossession, and wait for reopening. Without it, everything would crumble. Those nights, I lay awake, staring at the dark ceiling. Daisy, my wife, hugged me from behind and whispered, "I know you'll figure it out, I believe in you." But I knew the only option left was to turn to my biological parents, Kenneth and Louise Collins, living in Alexandria, Virginia. We weren't very close, but they were family. I hesitated for many nights. The last time I saw them was last Christmas, and conversations always revolved around my younger brother, Harrison. Harrison this, Harrison that. I was the eldest son, but in their eyes, I always managed on my own. I told myself, I'm just borrowing, not begging. I'd make it formal with paperwork, pay full interest, even higher than the bank. Not charity, just a family loan. That morning I drove my old clunker, the replacement for the BMW, toward Alexandria. The highway stretched endlessly, wind whistling through the cracked window. My parents' house was the same, a two-story home with a lush green garden, a symbol of the stability I'd always envied. I knocked, forcing a smile. Mom opened the door, her face showing surprise. "Nick? Why the sudden visit?" She hugged me lightly, but it felt cold, not warm like before. Dad came from the living room, newspaper in hand, glasses slipping down his nose. "Come in, son." We sat at the dining table, the atmosphere heavy from the start. I took a deep breath and began. "Mom, Dad, my gym is in trouble because of the pandemic. Members have all canceled. Expenses keep coming. I've sold my car, borrowed from friends, but I'm short $50,000 to survive. I just need a loan, with paperwork and full interest." I looked at them, searching their eyes for any sign of concern. A question, a word of worry, or even just asking about the business, how I planned to manage. But there was nothing. Dad folded the newspaper, placed it on the table, and looked at me through his glasses with chilling calmness. Mom avoided my gaze, fiddling with her teacup as if busy to avoid facing me. Dad spoke first, his voice firm but not raised. "We can't help with this, son." My heart stopped. I asked, trying to stay calm. "Why not, Dad? It's just temporary hardship. I'll borrow and repay fully with clear paperwork." Dad shook his head slowly as if he'd prepared the answer. "It's not about whether you'll repay. It's that we don't want to risk it right now." I leaned forward, trying to persuade. "I understand the risk. But if I get through this phase, everything will be fine. I'm not asking for a gift. I'm asking for a loan." Dad let out a short sigh, then said in the familiar tone I'd heard since childhood, "Business means accepting risks. You're grown now. Your affairs are your own to handle." He paused, then added bluntly, "This money is set aside for your brother." Hearing that, my chest tightened like it was being squeezed. "Harrison has a long future ahead," Dad continued firmly. "We have to provide for him." Harrison, my brother, 28 years old, still in college late, dreaming of plans he'd never started. I knew they always prioritized him, but hearing it said so directly still broke my heart. I turned to Mom. "What about you, Mom? Don't you have anything to say?" Mom glanced at me quickly, her eyes flashing brief guilt, then looked down. "I worry about you too," she said softly. "But right now it's really not convenient. Your dad has a point." That was all. Then silence. Dad continued, his tone turning lecturing. "Lending you money now is a risky decision. What if you don't make it? Then the family's money is gone. That could affect the bigger plans we've had all along." Bigger plans. I knew what that meant. It all revolved around Harrison. I took a deep breath, trying not to let my voice break. "I'm willing to sign a clear loan agreement. I'll pay interest. I can even collateralize company shares for your peace of mind." I slowed down, almost pleading. "I'm not asking for free money. I just want you to trust me this once." Dad raised an eyebrow, his voice turning irritated. "Do you think it's that simple? If it fails, who's responsible?" He stared at me. "You're too selfish, Nick. You always only think of yourself. Have you ever put the family's interest first? Frankly, if you were good enough and stable enough, you wouldn't be here begging us like this." Those words fell one by one, heavy and cold. Dad calling me selfish? I'd given up a scholarship for Harrison. I'd sent money home from my first jobs. I'd stayed silent for years as all priorities went to him. Now, when I needed it most, they called me selfish. I opened my mouth to say more, but Dad raised his hand, cutting me off. "Enough. We've decided. No more discussion. Go home. Don't make this more awkward." Mom still wouldn't look at me. Her tea had gone cold long ago. I stood up without another word, and in that moment, stepping out of the house, I understood clearly. It wasn't just the money I was denied. I was denied as a son. I left the house, my steps heavy. It wasn't just the money, it was my status as a son. That feeling was like being stabbed through the heart, blood flowing while no one noticed. On the drive back, the highway blurred in the drizzle, and for the first time I wondered, had I ever truly been a priority in this family? I drove, tears streaming down, my heart full of confusion. Ahead was Dover, my dying gym, and an uncertain future. I knew the fight wasn't over, but this wound would stay with me forever. The drive back felt longer than usual, or maybe it was just my imagination. Rain pattered on the windshield, each drop a reminder of failure. I tried to focus on the road, but my mind kept swirling with images. Dad sitting there, his face cold and expressionless. Mom looking down, avoiding my eyes. Those two words, selfish, echoed endlessly in my head. By the time I reached Dover, it was pitch black. Our small house was on the outskirts, peaceful with the vegetable garden Daisy had planted herself. I parked, turned off the engine, and sat in the darkness for a while. The smell of rain mixed with gasoline made me nauseous. Finally, I went inside, forcing a stiff smile. Daisy was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of soup, her brown hair loose, her eyes lighting up when she saw me. "You're back. Why so late?" She hugged me, and I tried to keep my voice normal. "Just traffic because of the rain, honey." I didn't want to tell her right away, didn't want to weigh down the atmosphere. We had dinner, chatting about her work, teaching kids online during the pandemic. I nodded along, smiled, but my mind was elsewhere. Daisy is perceptive. She stared at me intently. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't hold it in anymore. The dim nightlight cast shadows on the ceiling, and I started telling her. "Honey, the gym. It's slowly dying. The bank rejected the loan, I've sold everything, borrowed from friends, but I'm still short $50,000. I went to see my parents today." Daisy lay on her side, stroking my arm, listening without interrupting. I told her everything. The cold meeting, the blunt refusal, the reason it was set aside for my brother, and the accusing words. My voice trembled, tears fell again. "They called me selfish, you know, as if I'd never sacrificed anything for the family." Daisy was quiet for a moment, then hugged me tightly. "Don't be sad. They have their own reasons, but we'll get through this together. I believe in you." She didn't blame my parents or push me to do anything else. Just comforted me, and that warmed my heart. We fell asleep holding each other, but I lay awake for hours, my mind full of worries. $50,000, that number haunted my dreams like a ghost. The following days were hell. The pandemic raged on, streets empty, everyone masked up. I went to the gym every day, but only to stare at the piling bills. The landlord called constantly. "Nick, you have to pay this month, right? I understand it's tough, but I have my own obligations." I made promises knowing I was lying. Equipment lenders started sending notices. The bank kept mailing warnings. I cut back to the bare minimum, turning off lights, air conditioning, even cleaning everything myself to save every penny. But it was useless. Every morning, waking up, watching Daisy prepare breakfast, guilt gnawed at me. She was my only support, but I didn't want to drag her down with me. "I'm taking extra classes today to earn a bit more," she said. I shook my head. "I don't want you working harder. Let me handle it." But how? The thought of selling the gym began to creep in, sharp as a knife cutting flesh. It was my dream, our future. If I lost it, what would I be? A week dragged by, tense and slow. I tried to act normal, having dinner with Daisy, watching old movies, joking around. But at night, I lay thinking about the future. Would I have to close permanently? Would Daisy be disappointed? Then one afternoon, while restrictions were still in place, people advised to stay home and avoid travel. I heard a knock at the door. I was at my desk, head down over the books, heart pounding with worry when the doorbell rang. Who could it be at this hour? Daisy was teaching online. I was alone in the house. I opened the door and froze. Joseph and Anna Miller, my in-laws, stood there, masks covering half their faces, carrying a small suitcase. "Why are you here?" I stammered, shocked and concerned. They lived in Talbot County, Maryland, hours away by car. Traveling during the pandemic was risky. especially for older people like them. Joseph was about 60, tall and thin with kind eyes. Anna stood beside him, neat and tidy, her familiar warm gaze visible even behind the mask. They came in, and the house suddenly felt warmer. Joseph removed his mask and smiled faintly. We were careful, son. Masks on, sanitizing the whole way. Anna hugged me lightly, the familiar scent of her cookies wafting from her. I led them to the living room and quickly made tea. My heart raced. I had no idea why they were here unannounced. We hadn't seen each other in months because of the pandemic. Are you both okay? Why didn't you call first? I asked, voice worried. Joseph sat down and looked at me seriously. We know you're struggling. Daisy mentioned it briefly. My heart sank. Daisy told them? She hadn't said anything to me. The meeting was short and straightforward, true to their nature. No beating around the bush. Joseph pulled a thick envelope from his pocket and placed it on the table. Take this money, son. It'll help you through this time. I took the envelope, hands shaking. I opened it and my heart stopped. Crisp new dollar bills neatly stacked, exactly $50,000. I was stunned, eyes wide. How can you give me so much? Where did this come from? All sorts of thoughts raced through my mind. Did they sell land? Borrow at high interest? Joseph and Anna exchanged a glance, a flicker of worry in her eyes. Don't worry about it, Joseph said in his calm, warm voice. We thought it through. Focus on your business, son. No need to ask too many questions. Anna nodded. That's right, son-in-law. We're family. But they avoided answering directly, and that made me uneasy. I knew they weren't wealthy, just a small farm in Talbot, living simply. $50,000 wasn't a small amount for them. I pressed, but Mom, Dad, I can't accept if it's not clear. Are there any conditions? Joseph shook his head. None at all. We're just helping you. The visit ended quickly. They stayed for dinner, then headed to a nearby hotel, not wanting to impose. I saw them out, my heart full of gratitude mixed with worry. Thank you so much for helping me, I said, voice choking. They hugged me and left into the evening. Back in the living room, I sat staring at the envelope, mind in turmoil. Grateful. This was the lifeline for the gym, but anxious. Where did the money come from? If they suffered because of me, I'd regret it for life. That question circled in my head all afternoon. That evening, when Daisy came home, I waited for her in the kitchen. Your parents came to visit today, I said. She stopped what she was doing, turned to me, eyes wide. Really? Why didn't you call me? I told her everything, the $50,000 envelope and how they dodged my questions about the source. I looked at her, voice lowering. I'm really worried, honey. I don't know where the money came from. I don't want to take it if it puts them in trouble. Daisy sat down, silent for a long time. Her eyes stared into the distance. Then she sighed. I'm sorry I didn't tell you earlier. They mortgaged the farm to borrow the money for you. It hit me like lightning. Their farm, that was their livelihood, the place they'd lived their whole lives, raised Daisy. Now mortgaged, meaning they risked losing everything if it couldn't be repaid. I held Daisy tightly, tears streaming. Why would they do that? I don't deserve it. Daisy comforted me. You do deserve it. They believe in you because they know who you are. I believe in you too. We'll get through this together and pay them back properly, fully. We held each other and I cried like a child. For the first time, I truly felt that quiet sacrifice. My in-laws had staked their old age on their faith in me. Their son-in-law, not even blood. That night I lay awake, unable to sleep. Moonlight shone through the window, illuminating Daisy's sleeping face. I kept comparing. My biological parents refused coldly, treating me like a burden. My in-laws, they sacrificed silently without demands or conditions. Joseph and Anna, they'd never blame me, always welcome me like their own son. For the first time, I realized that family isn't always where you're born. It's where people are willing to place their trust in you when you're at your lowest. That thought was like a ray of light in the darkness, but it also made me more determined. I had to succeed, had to repay them. Tomorrow I'd use this money to save the gym. But the wound from my biological parents still ached, and I knew the journey was far from over. The next morning I woke up earlier than usual. The first rays of dawn filtered through the curtains, shining directly onto the envelope still lying untouched on the desk. Daisy was still sound asleep, her face peaceful after a long, exhausting night. I made myself a cup of coffee, sat down, and picked up the envelope with slightly trembling hands. $50,000, not just a number, but the quiet sacrifice of Joseph and Anna for me. The farm in Talbot County, where they had poured their sweat and tears for so many years, was now mortgaged because of me. That thought tightened my chest as if someone were squeezing it. I couldn't let them down. I took a deep breath and started taking action. First, I called the landlord. "Ma'am, I'll transfer the money today. Thank you so much for your understanding." Her voice sounded relieved. "That's great, Nick. Keep going." Next was the bank, paying off the equipment loan that had been hanging over me like the sword of Damocles. Each transfer click felt like a breath of relief. I set aside a portion for maintenance, buying masks and sanitizer, preparing for the day we could reopen. The gym was still silent, but now it had a chance to live. In the weeks that followed, the pandemic dragged on, but I refused to sit idle. I switched to online mode, filming at-home workout videos and posting them on YouTube and Facebook. Some old members responded positively. "Thanks a lot, Nick. These videos help us train at home. They're easy to follow and motivating." Revenue from video fees trickled in, just enough to survive. I knew I wasn't out of danger yet. Everything could only truly change when restrictions were fully lifted. Every evening I called Joseph and Anna. "How have you been, Mom and Dad? I've used the money and the gym is doing much better." Joseph chuckled lightly over the phone, his voice kind and steady. "That's good, son. Just focus on your work, don't worry about us." Anna would turn to ask about Daisy, her familiar worried tone. "How's my daughter eating these days? Remember to take care of your health. Don't overwork." They never asked when I'd repay the money, never uttered a word of blame. That both warmed my heart and left me restless with guilt. When I sent them monthly payments along with cookies, supplements, and other gifts, I said softly, "I just want to show my gratitude." Anna quickly refused. "We're fine. Keep it for your own little family." I insisted. "Please accept it so I can feel at ease. That way, my heart feels lighter." Then the pandemic gradually came under control. Vaccines arrived and the government eased restrictions. The news on TV excited me. Non-essential businesses may reopen at 50% capacity. I threw myself into preparations, cleaning the gym from floor to ceiling, spacing out equipment, putting up maintain 2-meter distance signs. On the first day of reopening, my heart pounded like it did on my first date with Daisy. Only a few old members returned, wearing masks and looking around cautiously. "Nick, you're open? Let me try a session." I nodded and smiled brightly. "Come on in. I've cleaned and sanitized everything. Everyone can train with peace of mind." Attendance grew slowly, from 5 people on the first day to 20, then 50. They came back because they missed the discipline of in-person training, not just online. I taught classes myself, guiding each person. Keep your back straight, breathe evenly. Sweat poured down, but I felt alive again. I cut staff, keeping only one trainer to save costs. I worked non-stop, opening early in the morning, closing late at night, delivering light snacks to clients at midday. Daisy worried. "Rest a bit. If you keep this up, you'll burn out." But I shook my head. "I have to push harder now, honey. The gym is just starting to revive. I can't stop." Time flew by. Nearly 3 years. 3 years full of sweat, tears, and hope. The pandemic receded and the world returned to normal. The gym didn't just survive, it thrived. Membership soared, from 100 to 300, then 500. I added yoga and Zumba classes, attracting women and older adults. Revenue stabilized and profits began to accumulate. I started repaying old debts one by one. The bank, friends, and especially Joseph and Anna. Each month I transferred a portion to them along with a handwritten note. "Thank you, Mom and Dad, I'm paying it back gradually." They called back, their voices as gentle as ever. "Don't send too much, take care of your own family first." But I was determined to repay. Cash flow stabilized and the gym ran smoothly. I even dared to invest in new equipment, modern treadmills, multifunctional weight sets. Watching the gym bustling again, filled with laughter and chatter during sessions, filled me with pride. Throughout that time, Daisy and I lived simply. We didn't splurge, cooking at home, no restaurants, shopping frugally at the market, weekend walks in the park. We focused on building our family, dreaming of children, a bigger house. Daisy still taught. I still ran the gym. But every night we held each other and talked about the future. We didn't initiate contact with my biological parents. After that bitter refusal, I stopped calling. They stayed silent too. No check-ins, no congratulations. Occasionally, Harrison texted sporadically, but I replied briefly. The wound still smoldered. I didn't want to reopen it. Instead, I poured my affection into Joseph and Anna, sending holiday gifts, weekly video calls. They were like real parents, always encouraging. "Keep going, son. We're proud of you." Then one day, everything changed unexpectedly. It was a chilly autumn afternoon. I was at the gym personally leading a new class when my phone vibrated in my pocket, a call from Kenneth Collins, my biological father. My heart skipped a beat. The last time we spoke was 3 years ago in that house when he flatly refused me. I hesitated for a few seconds, then answered. His voice came through immediately, dry and to the point. "Nick, I need to talk to you about something." No greeting. No congratulations. No. "How are you?" No, "How's the business?" He went straight to the matter as if I were just someone to call when needed. "Your brother Harrison is getting married," he continued. "The wedding has to be proper, respectable, to maintain the family's reputation." He paused briefly, then said firmly, "You need to contribute $150,000. I froze. My ears rang. The sounds of the gym seemed distant. I repeated, my voice lowering. "Did I hear that right? $150,000? Why so much, Dad? Who is Harrison marrying?" He cut me off. "The bride comes from a well-off family. They're doing it big. We can't look cheap. You understand? This isn't just a wedding," he added as if lecturing. "It's an important family event." He didn't mention the past. Not the time I begged for $50,000 when the gym was on the brink of collapse. Not the 3 years I struggled alone, selling my car, carrying debt, fighting day by day. It was as if none of it had ever happened. I swallowed hard and hesitated. But $150,000 is way beyond my means. I can help with a portion, but I can't afford that much. His voice immediately sharpened. "Why all the questions? This is for your brother, for the family's honor. You're stable now. Helping him once shouldn't be a problem." Then my mother's voice chimed in. She'd been listening on speaker. "That's right, son. Now that you're successful, helping Harrison is only natural. Brothers shouldn't be petty like outsiders." Those words cut straight into me like a knife. I slumped into a chair, gripping the phone tightly. In that moment, I understood clearly. In my biological parents' eyes, my success was never something to be proud of. It was just a resource, a mobile ATM, something to withdraw from when Harrison needed it. Harrison, the brother always prioritized, always protected, was getting married, and I had to pay for that facade. My heart raced, blood rushing to my head. I tried to stay calm. "Give me some time to think about it, Mom and Dad." Without waiting for a reply, I hung up. Around me, the gym remained lively, chatter, laughter, the steady clank of weights hitting the floor. But I sat there, isolated in the very place I'd built, realizing for the first time that the call wasn't a request. It was a demand. My hand was still gripping the phone tightly. The screen had gone completely dark, but my father's words kept echoing. Contribute $150,000. It's your responsibility. Responsibility? I smirked inwardly, but the smile was bitterly painful. 3 years of struggling, from the brink of bankruptcy to stable profits, all built by my own hands without a single word of concern from them. Now, when Harrison, their golden boy, was about to get married, they came back, treating my success like a wallet ready to be opened. My heart pounded, blood rushed to my head, but I didn't respond right away. I chose silence. I needed time to think, to understand exactly what I was facing. That afternoon, I drove home more slowly than usual. The streets of Dover were familiar. Rows of trees with scattered golden leaves falling, the chilly autumn wind whistling through the window. But everything felt hazy, as if the world had narrowed down to just that phone call. $150,000. A huge amount, enough to open a new branch, buy a house for Daisy and me, or invest in our future. But for Harrison's wedding? Just to maintain the family's reputation? I thought about him. Harrison, 28 years old, still drifting with half-baked business ideas, but always spoiled by our parents. The last time we met, he bragged about his bride, the daughter of a well-off family. And now, the wedding had to match that status. I pulled over to the side of the road, turned off the engine, and sat there for a long while. No, I wouldn't decide hastily. I needed to talk to Daisy to hear her thoughts. She was always my rock, the only one who truly understood me without judgment. When I got home, the smell of food wafted from the kitchen. Daisy was cooking my favorite beef stew. She turned around with a bright smile, but it quickly faded when she saw my face. "What's wrong today? You look like you've seen a ghost." I hugged her from behind, breathing in the familiar scent of her hair, and then we sat down at the table. I told her everything, my voice calm but my heart turbulent. My parents called and demanded $150,000 for Harrison's wedding. They said it's my responsibility because I'm successful now. Daisy listened, worry flashing in her eyes, but she didn't react explosively. She's not the type to explode. Instead, she asked me just one question, softly but sharply. If you were in trouble again, would they do the same for you? That question hit me like a punch to the chest. I fell silent, mouth open but no words coming out. Daisy didn't push. She just sat there, stroking my hand, waiting for an answer. And then, like a dam breaking, a flood of old memories came rushing back. Memories I'd tried to bury deep, to forget so I could move on. I remembered my childhood in Alexandria, the 2-story house with its lush green garden where everything looked perfect on the outside, but inside it was full of quiet injustices. As the eldest son, I always tried to do everything perfectly, just hoping to make my parents proud. When I brought home the Honor Student Award in 5th grade, Dad glanced at the report card and nodded faintly. "Good, keep it up." No smile, no extra praise. But when Harrison came home with a scribbled drawing, colors smeared all over the paper, Mom immediately hugged him, her voice full of excitement. "Oh, my talented boy." This shows real artistic promise. My achievements were always taken for granted, as if I was born to excel. But Harrison only had to do the smallest things, clear the table, score a goal once, and he'd get endless praise. I remembered those evenings when the family gathered in the living room. Dad would lean back in his chair, talking about the future with high expectations. "Harrison is definitely going to make it big one day. I believe in him. He has what it takes." Then he turned to me, his tone casual, as if just checking a box. "You're different, Nick. You can take care of yourself. We don't have to worry much about you." And those words repeated over the years, enough for me to understand that in this family, some people were born to be expected of, and others were born just to carry on alone. Then there were the times I gave in. The first time I truly noticed the favoritism was when I was 12. My parents had saved up to buy a new bicycle, and I was excited because I'd promised to use it for extra classes. But Harrison cried and wanted it, and Mom said, "He's younger, let him have it." As the older brother, you have to sacrifice. I gritted my teeth and handed it over, feeling deeply hurt but not daring to complain. The attention was the same. My birthdays were often forgotten or just a simple family dinner, while Harrison's were parties with friends. They always said the younger one needed more care, like a mantra to justify it. I grew up thinking being the older brother meant giving without expecting anything back. The most recent memory, the time I begged for help when the gym was collapsing, came back clearer than ever, like a slow-motion film. The pandemic raging, I'd sold my beloved BMW, borrowed from friends, then driven to Alexandria with faint hope. "I'm just asking to borrow, not for a gift," I said, voice trembling. But Dad refused outright. "Business is risky, handle it yourself. This money is set aside for your brother." Mom looked briefly guilty but stayed silent. I left the house feeling rejected, not just financially but as a son. Now those memories merged with today's call, causing me deep pain. I realized that for years I'd always been the giver, sending money home when I first started working, yielding job opportunities to Harrison, even staying silent as they prioritized him. But I'd never been chosen when it was my turn to need help. Whenever I was in trouble, they brushed it aside. But Harrison, always welcomed with open arms. Daisy's question was like a detonator, and I sat there, mind spinning. We didn't eat dinner, we just sat quietly in the kitchen, the dim yellow light shining on the table. "You don't know the answer to that?" I whispered, but deep down I knew, no, they wouldn't. Not like last time or the time before. Daisy hugged me, her voice calm but firm. "Think it through carefully. Whatever you decide, I'll be right here supporting you." That night I barely slept. I lay beside Daisy, listening to her steady breathing in the darkness while my mind was a tangled mess. I tossed and turned, eyes fixed on the bedside clock. 2 a.m., then 4. Everything from the past to the present piled up at once. And the demand for $150,000 felt like the final drop that made the cup overflow. Suddenly, I understood something very clearly. I no longer owed them anything. My success was built by me alone through sweat and years of being overlooked. It wasn't something to be used for Harrison, nor the price I had to pay for so-called family reputation. The next morning, my eyes were dark-ringed from almost no sleep, but my mind was clear. I knew what I would say. I would not pay for Harrison's wedding. I picked up the phone, sat still for a moment, then dialed. It rang for quite a while, long enough for me to consider hanging up. But then Dad's voice came through, familiar yet distant. "Have you thought it over?" I took a deep breath and kept my voice steady. "Mom, Dad, I've thought about it carefully. I can't, and I don't want to, meet this request." There was silence on the other end for a few seconds. I knew he was holding back. Then his voice grew heavy and harsh. "What do you mean by that? Harrison's wedding is a big family matter. You're his brother. Don't you have any responsibility?" I gripped the phone tighter. "I understand it's important, but the amount you're asking exceeds both my ability and my limits." Dad's voice immediately rose, no longer restrained. "You're doing well now. The gym is profitable, your life is better than before. Helping your brother once. What's so unreasonable?" I closed my eyes and spoke slowly. "Do you remember 3 years ago? When my gym was about to go bankrupt, I asked to borrow $50,000. Just a loan, with clear paperwork. But you refused." Dad brushed it off. "That's in the past, why bring it up?" "But for me, it's never been in the past," I replied, voice still even. I managed on my own and stood back up. Now I'm more stable, but that doesn't mean I have to sacrifice again. I heard Mom in the background, her voice trembling. "Son, don't be so stubborn. Harrison is your brother. He needs you right now." My throat tightened, but I continued. "I'm not turning my back on Harrison. But I can't throw away that money just for appearances." Dad's voice turned ice cold, each word heavy. "If that's how you think, then from now on consider that we no longer have a son like you. Mom burst into tears, her voice breaking. "Nick, don't hurt your mother like this." I was silent for a few seconds. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I knew saying more wouldn't change anything. "If that's your choice," I said softly, "then I accept it." I hung up. Sitting in the middle of the gym with the sounds of people training and weights clanging steadily around me, I felt empty. It hurt, losing my blood family. But at the same time, there was a clear sense of relief. I understood that this disownment wasn't the result of a single argument. It was simply the consequence of me finally daring to voice something I'd kept buried in my heart for far too long. The phone lay silent on the table, no longer vibrating. No pleading texts from Mom, no threats from Dad. Just a heavy silence, like an invisible wall that had been erected between us. I stood up, wiping the sweat from my forehead, though I hadn't been working out, and tried to focus on work. A young member asked about the class schedule. I forced a smile and answered, but my mind was elsewhere. That evening, when I got home, Daisy noticed I was quieter than usual. She didn't ask right away, she just hugged me. We ate dinner in a falsely peaceful atmosphere, but I knew I had to tell her. When I finished, Daisy simply nodded. "You did the right thing. Now we live for ourselves." The following days passed in a fog. The gym was still busy, revenue steady, but I worked like a machine. Every morning I woke up with a hollow feeling, staring at the old family photo on the wall. A picture of all of us when I was little, Harrison grinning widely next to our parents while I stood slightly off to the side. I thought about erasing those memories entirely, but then let it go. Life went on. I called Joseph and Anna, sending them thank you gifts as usual. "How are you two doing? How's the business?" Anna asked warmly. I gave a brief update on work, avoiding any mention of my biological parents. They didn't ask, as if they understood without words. Daisy and I spent weekends walking in the park talking about the future. About children, about a trip somewhere. But deep down, the wound still smoldered. I wondered, had they really disowned me? Or was it just angry words? I waited anxiously for a call, but nothing came. The silence dragged on, and it hurt more than any reproach. Then a few days before the wedding, the invitation arrived. A thick envelope, glossy paper sent from Harrison. I opened it, my hands trembling slightly. "You are cordially invited to the wedding of Harrison Collins and Emily Thompson. Date, time, location. A luxurious hotel in Alexandria, a few hours' drive from Dover. No personal note, just a printed card." I sat at the dining table staring at it, torn with conflicting emotions. Should I go or not? Go to prove what? That evening, as we lay in bed, I asked Daisy, "I got Harrison's wedding invitation. Should I go?" Daisy thought for a moment, stroking my arm. She didn't advise refusing or speak harshly. She said gently, "You should go to fulfill your duty as an older brother. Go wish your brother well, then come home. Don't let them think you're still holding a grudge." Her words silenced me. Duty as an older brother? Yes, after all, Harrison was still my brother, but going meant facing my parents, facing the disownment. I thought about it for days, weighing every angle. At the gym during the day, I was distracted, nearly dropping a weight. At night, I lay awake imagining the wedding. My parents with fake smiles, Harrison showing off. Would they kick me out? Or pretend nothing had happened? The tension built like a ticking time bomb. Finally, after 3 sleepless nights, I decided I would go with Daisy. Not for them, but for myself, to close this chapter without regret. The wedding day arrived faster than I expected. We drove to Alexandria, Daisy in a simple but elegant dress, me in a neat black suit. The atmosphere in the car was heavy. "Are you okay?" Daisy asked, squeezing my hand. I nodded. "I'm fine, honey. Just a little nervous." The hotel appeared, magnificent with crystal chandeliers and flowers everywhere. The ceremony was extravagant, crowded. Hundreds of guests, from distant relatives to Harrison's friends. It reeked of ostentation and pride, exactly as my parents had talked about family reputation. Endless banquet tables with fresh seafood, expensive wine, a stage with a live band. I looked around, bitterness filling my heart. $150,000, probably more, to pay for this spectacle. Harrison stood there in a white suit, beaming beside his bride Emily, a beautiful girl from a wealthy family. They looked happy, but I wondered, was it real happiness or just a facade? From the moment we arrived, the coldness was palpable. My biological parents stood at the entrance greeting guests, but when they saw us, Dad turned away, pretending to talk to someone else. Mom glanced over briefly, her eyes red, but offered no greeting, no introduction to relatives. "This is Nick, our eldest son." Those words were never spoken. We stood alone in the crowd like uninvited guests. Some distant aunts and uncles eyed us curiously, whispering behind our backs, "That's Harrison's brother? I heard he didn't contribute anything to the wedding." "Yeah, that's him, successful but stingy." The whispers spread like wildfire, tightening my chest. Daisy squeezed my hand. "Don't pay attention to what they're saying." But I felt like I was standing among wolves, waiting for the attack. The ceremony began. We sat in the back rows, not in the family section. Harrison and Emily exchanged rings. Everyone applauded. I clapped along, but my heart was in turmoil. Then came the reception, and things got worse. While mingling, Dad deliberately made sarcastic remarks. Standing near us, he said loudly to an uncle, "These days, some people succeed but forget their roots. They only think of themselves, not their brother." Mom chimed in with a half-reproachful, half-whiny tone. "Kids grow up, make money, and forget family ties. They don't shoulder important responsibilities for their brother, letting the family's honor suffer." She said it while glancing at me, indirectly blaming. I endured in silence, gritting my teeth and swallowing my anger, trying to keep face for everyone, even those insulting me. Daisy whispered, "Maybe we should leave." But I shook my head. "Wait a bit longer, I want to congratulate my brother." My heart raced, tension mounting. Would they stop? But no, it didn't stop at glances and whispers. Midway through the reception, my father, already tipsy, face flushed from wine, suddenly walked up to the band. Before anyone could react, he grabbed the microphone from the MC. The music cut off abruptly. The noisy hall fell silent. "Everyone, listen to me for a moment." His voice slurred but loud enough to fill the room. "Today is Harrison's big day, my youngest son," he said, raising his glass high. "A proud day for our family." Then he paused, his eyes scanning the room as if searching for his target. He continued, voice darkening. "But sadly, in this family, there's someone irresponsible, a traitor. When the family needed him, he turned his back. The hall went dead quiet. Glasses froze midair. Everyone turned in the direction of his gaze. He pointed straight at me. "That's Nicholas." "Our eldest son," he said, contempt unmistakable. "He's doing well now, living off his in-laws, but couldn't contribute a single penny to his own brother's wedding." A wave of murmurs swept through the tables. "Someone like him," he continued, voice rising, "isn't worthy of being the eldest son, isn't worthy of being here today." The words landed like a slow, exploding bomb. I felt the blood in my veins freeze. My ears rang. I braced my hands on the table to stand, but at that moment Daisy stepped forward in front of me. She stood tall, unflinching, voice calm and clear enough for everyone to hear. "You say Nicholas is irresponsible," Daisy began, looking straight at my father. "But if he were truly irresponsible, he wouldn't have stood back up alone when his business collapsed, carried the debt himself and rebuilt his company all on his own." The air froze. Daisy didn't glance at me. She kept her eyes on my parents. "He's not a traitor," she continued slowly. "He just chooses to live with integrity, repaying kindness and loyalty to those who reached out when he was at his lowest." A few people started turning toward my parents. Daisy paused, then delivered the line that hit exactly where they always avoided. "Some people always demand sacrifice," she said, "but never show up when he needed them most. What do you think about that?" My father stood stunned. His mouth opened, but no words came. My mother went pale, hand over her mouth, eyes panicked. Around us, the whispers were no longer hushed. Some nodded. Others quietly looked away. I looked at Daisy. For the first time in my life, I felt complete, unconditional protection, something I'd never had from my blood family. She stood there without raising her voice, like a shield between me and everything that had hurt me for years. The tension was suffocating. Harrison and Emily hurried over. Harrison put a hand on my shoulder, voice low but laced with irritation. "Brother, sister-in-law, please leave early for my sake, to keep things from escalating. It's our big day, after all." Emily stood beside him, nodding, avoiding my eyes. I looked at Harrison, my brother, and realized there was nothing left between us but distance. No thanks for coming, just a polite eviction. We turned and left the reception amid curious stares. No one stopped us. Behind us, the music started again, lively and foreign. The wedding was lavish, dazzling, but empty of real family bonds. On the drive home, cold wind whipped through the car window. Daisy leaned her head on my shoulder. "Are you proud of me?" she asked softly. I nodded, throat tight. "You're everything to me." That night back in Dover, we held each other as we slept. But I knew that wedding wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a complete severance. The future ahead held uncertainties. There might be retaliation. There might be more pain. But right now I had Daisy. I had Joseph and Anna. And I knew that was my real family. In the days following the wedding, the atmosphere in our home felt shrouded in a silent fog. Daisy and I had essentially cut off contact with my biological parents. No calls, no messages, nothing at all. Harrison sent a brief text. "Thanks for coming." But I didn't reply. I wasn't angry with him. He was just a victim of that favoritism. But I was exhausted by the whole drama. We refocused on our own lives. The gym remained busy. Daisy continued teaching online. And we spent our evenings cooking together, watching movies, or simply lying in each other's arms chatting about nothing in particular. Every time the phone vibrated, my heart tightened, anxiously anticipating a call from Alexandria. Perhaps an apology, or worse, more blame. But nothing came. The silence stretched on, and it felt like confirmation. We had truly lost each other. Then one morning, everything changed. It was a beautiful autumn day, golden leaves falling outside the window, a cool breeze drifting into the kitchen. I was making coffee while Daisy sat at the table, her face a little pale but her eyes sparkling. She looked at me with a strange smile. "I have something to tell you." My heart skipped a beat. Her tone was so serious. I sat down, holding my hot cup of coffee. "What is it, honey?" Daisy took a deep breath and whispered, "I'm pregnant." The good news arrived quietly, without fanfare, but it left me stunned with happiness. The coffee cup nearly slipped from my hand. "Really? Are you sure?" She nodded and handed me the pregnancy test. 2 clear lines. I pulled Daisy into a tight embrace, tears streaming down my face uncontrollably. "We're going to have a baby." Laughter mixed with tears filled our small kitchen. For the first time after so many storms, I felt like life was opening a new chapter, bright and full of hope. Daisy smiled. "I've known for a few days, but wanted to be sure before telling you." That joy came with new responsibilities, and it made me think more seriously about the future. Before, we lived simply, renting a small house on the outskirts of Dover, enough for just the 2 of us. But now, with a child on the way, I couldn't leave things uncertain anymore. I started envisioning a stable home with a yard for the child to play in, a separate room for the baby, and a cozy space for our family. The business had gradually become solid. The gym not only survived but expanded with new classes and loyal members. Steady cash flow and monthly profits allowed me for the first time to make a big decision without fear. No more sleepless nights calculating bills, no more haunting thoughts of bankruptcy. Now I could dream bigger. "Let's buy a new house," I've been thinking about this for a long time, I said to Daisy one evening as we sat on the balcony stargazing. She looked at me, eyes bright. Really? Can we afford it? I nodded. I've saved enough. We'll find a house for us and prepare for our new family member. We agreed to look for a small, quiet, single-family home on the outskirts of Dover, somewhere with fresh air near parks and schools. Not a grand, flashy mansion like Harrison's wedding. Just a 2-story house with a backyard, 3 bedrooms, enough space for children and parents in their old age. The decision to buy a house wasn't about showing off or proving anything to anyone, not to my biological parents or relatives. It was simply about building a long-term foundation for our little family. We spent weekends house hunting hand in hand, laughing as we imagined. This room for the baby, I'll paint it blue, or the backyard for you to plant roses. Each viewing made my heart race with excitement and worry. Would it be okay? What if the economy shifted? But Daisy always knew how to reassure me. After a few weeks, we found the perfect house. Warm wood finishes, a spacious kitchen, and a view of a small lake. Signing the contract, my hand trembled on the pen, but my heart was filled with exhilaration. During the preparations, cleaning, buying furniture, I often thought of Joseph and Anna Miller, the ones who had quietly sacrificed for me without ever demanding anything. The farm in Talbot County, which they had mortgaged to lend me the $50,000 that saved my gym. Now that life was stable, I sent them money more regularly and called via video every week. "How are you, Mom and Dad? We're going to have a grandchild soon," I shared, and Anna's eyes lit up. "Really? We're so happy." Joseph smiled kindly. "Congratulations to you both." They never mentioned the money as if it had never happened, but I remembered clearly and my heart was full of gratitude. After many late-night discussions with Daisy, lying in bed whispering about the future, I took the initiative. "I want to invite Mom and Dad to live with us. As they get older, it'll be easier for us to take care of them." Daisy was surprised, her eyes welling up. "Have you thought this through?" I nodded. "I have, honey. It's not out of obligation, it's because I want to take care of them. They've given so much to me and our family." Daisy hugged me tightly, moved. "You're so good. I'm proud of you." I called Joseph and Anna, my voice trembling with nervousness. "Mom, Dad, Daisy and I bought a new house. It's spacious. Would you come live with us so we can take care of you more easily?" Silence on the other end, then Joseph's voice, hesitant. "Son, we're afraid of being a burden. The farm is still here, we're used to it." Anna added, "Your dad's right. We don't want you to worry about us." But I persisted. I spoke slowly, trying to convey my true feelings. "Mom, Dad, everything I'm saying comes from the bottom of my heart. I'm not doing this out of duty, I just want to repay your kindness and care for you while I still can." Daisy gently joined the call, her voice warm and sincere. "Mom, Dad, we really need you. Having you close would make us feel at ease." There was a long silence on the line. Then Joseph's voice returned, deeper and clearly moved. "All right, let us make some arrangements. Hearing you say that warms our hearts." The following week, Joseph and Anna came to see the house. As they stepped into the backyard, their eyes naturally lit up. Anna looked around and said softly, as if afraid to break the moment, "The house is so beautiful and peaceful." We stood there, embracing one another. In that moment, I felt it very clearly for the first time. Family isn't just where you're born. It's where people choose to stay by your side. And this time, I knew my family was truly complete. The new house quickly became a warm home. We moved in and arranged simple furnishings, the old comfy sofa, a wooden dining table, and a room for Joseph and Anna with a view of the lake. They moved in a few weeks later, bringing just a few things from the farm. Potted plants, old photos, and the familiar smell of homemade baking. Life slowed down. In the mornings, Joseph helped me fix the car. Anna taught Daisy family recipes. No pressure, no conditions. No one demanded anything, just sharing. Daisy's belly grew bigger and we laughed when the baby kicked, our little one so playful. For the first time, I truly felt I was building a family where bonds weren't based on blood but on kindness and trust. Joseph and Anna, they weren't blood relatives, but they had been there during my hardest times. My biological parents, they were far away in resentful silence. I didn't hate them, I was just sad. But now I chose the people who deserved it. In my heart, the concept of filial piety took on clear shape. Not repaying those who demand it, but caring for those who have sacrificed for you. Every evening we gathered for dinner, Joseph telling old stories, Anna smiling gently, Daisy stroking her belly. I looked around, my heart full of warmth. But a hint of anxiety lingered. Would my biological parents find out? Would they come back and cause trouble? I pushed the thought away, focusing on the present. Life now flowed like a gentle river, but I knew storms could arrive at any time. Christmas came quickly, bringing a blanket of white snow outside the windows and the crisp chill of Dover. Our new home, a 2-story house with a spacious backyard, was filled with a warm yet humble atmosphere. We didn't hang dazzling lights, buy a massive Christmas tree, or host a big party with friends. Just handmade decorations, a wreath Anna crafted from pine branches gathered in the yard, paper ornaments Daisy painted herself, and clumsy but heartfelt knitted stockings from Joseph. On Christmas morning, we woke up early, made hot cocoa, and sat around the fireplace telling stories. Daisy's belly was now prominently round. She wore a loose sweater and beamed as the baby kicked gently. Our little one so playful, just like his dad when he was young, Anna teased, and everyone burst into laughter. This was the first Christmas where I truly felt peace. No worries about bills, no haunting from the past. Especially with Daisy pregnant and our little family forming day by day. Joseph opened his gift, a new jacket I'd bought, and his eyes sparkled. "Thank you, son." Anna hugged Daisy. "I can't wait for the grandchild to arrive." I sat there, heart full of gratitude, thinking that finally life had been fair to me. But that peace was shattered suddenly, like a cold gust blowing through a cracked door. It was late Christmas afternoon, snow falling heavily, wind howling outside. We were gathered around the table for a simple dinner of roast chicken and Anna's homemade pudding when a knock echoed, strong and insistent, not the friendly tap of a neighbor. My heart tightened. A bad premonition washed over me. I went to the door myself. Opening it, I froze. Kenneth and Louise Collins, my biological parents, stood there, coats dusted with snow, faces flushed from the cold. Unannounced, uninvited. They stepped inside without waiting, bringing with them the faint smell of alcohol and an obvious air of jealous scrutiny. Dad's eyes immediately scanned the house, the polished wooden floors, the warm fireplace, the simple yet comfortable furnishings, and finally the presence of Joseph and Anna at the table. "So this is your new house?" "Quite luxurious, huh?" he said, sarcasm dripping from his first words. I tried to stay calm, closing the door, my heart pounding. "Why the sudden visit? Come in. It's cold." They entered, removing their coats, but the atmosphere in the house suddenly turned heavy as lead. Daisy stood to greet them, her pregnancy clearly visible, but my parents only nodded coldly. Anna and Joseph exchanged glances and politely invited them to sit, but the tension was palpable. Dad sat down, eyes sweeping the room. "Look at you, living the high life now. Big house, nice things. Buying people's loyalty, are you? Showing off your wealth like this." His words cut like a knife, clearly aimed at Joseph and Anna, as if they were the loyalty being bought. Mom chimed in with a reproachful tone, glancing at Daisy. "That's right. Ever since you started relying on your wife's family, you've turned your back on your real family. No calls, no check-ins, and now you've even moved your in-laws in. What are we to you?" My heart raced, blood rushing to my head. The air in the room quickly thickened, tense like a ticking time bomb. I could feel every gaze, every heavy breath, as if one wrong word would make everything explode. I tried to stay calm, lowering my voice as much as possible while keeping it clear and firm. "Please sit down and talk. But let me say this first. I need basic respect in this house. Daisy is pregnant, and I won't tolerate any words or actions that hurt her or anyone here. Joseph and Anna sat quietly on the sofa. I could see the worry in their eyes, the unease of people not part of this conflict but dragged into it anyway. Anna gently squeezed her husband's hand. Joseph looked down, avoiding my father's gaze. They said nothing, but their silence was heavier than any rebuttal. My father let out a scornful laugh, short and dripping with mockery. Respect? You turn your back on your family, on your brother, and now you talk to me about respect? Accusations poured out relentlessly, without evidence or listening. He ranted about my ingratitude, betrayal, living off my wife's family, shaming the family name. Each sentence was like a dull blade, not killing instantly but cutting deep and prolonging the pain. Then everything spiraled out of control. Dad shot up from his chair. His face was flushed, the strong smell of alcohol filling the air. He whirled toward Joseph and Anna, arm raised and trembling with rage. He spat, voice full of contempt. And you two think mortgaging your farm and throwing money around buys you someone else's son? I'm his real parent. The room seemed to lose all air in that instant. Joseph went pale, lips pressed tight. Anna covered her mouth, eyes red with hurt and indignation. Daisy instinctively stepped in front of me, shielding like a barrier, hands on her belly, voice trembling but clear. Please stop. This is our home. Don't insult my parents. That was enough to ignite my father's rage completely. He lunged toward the table, swinging his arm and smashing the Christmas decorations. The wreath fell to the floor, paper ornaments shattered. Cocoa mugs were knocked over, dark liquid spilling across the wood. The sharp sounds of breaking echoed. The smell of cocoa mixed with alcohol turned the house chaotic. Daisy recoiled in fear, stumbling back. She nearly fell, clutching her belly tightly, face pale with terror. That moment became the final boundary for me. I stepped forward, fully blocking Daisy and Joseph. My voice dropped low, cold and resolute. Enough. Leave my house now. Dad kept yelling from behind, but I no longer heard the words clearly. I only felt the chaos spreading and my responsibility to protect those behind me. If you don't leave, I continued, pulling out my phone, I'll call the police. This time Dad stared at me for a long while. His eyes bloodshot, no longer those of a father, but of someone completely out of control. He spun around, dragging Mom toward the door, hurling one final bitter remark. You're no longer my son. The door slammed shut in the freezing Christmas night. Outside, snow fell thickly, wind howling in gusts like lamentations. Inside, everything fell deathly silent. I stood frozen in place, breathing heavily. My heart was a tangle of emotions, anger, pain, loss. But beneath it all was a clear, undeniable feeling. From this moment, I understood that the family I chose to protect had no room for those who caused harm, no matter what title they held. I turned back to look at Daisy and my in-laws. They were still there. Shaken, frightened, but safe. And for the first time, I knew I had chosen the right side. The door closed behind my biological parents with a resounding slam that echoed through the freezing Christmas night, like an irreversible ending. Snow fell thickly outside, wind howling through the cracks. But inside the house, the atmosphere remained heavy, like a dark cloud that hadn't dissipated. I stood there for a moment, breathing heavily, my hand still gripping the phone, ready to call the police if they came back. But there was no more knocking, only the patter of snow on the roof. I returned to the living room where the wreckage from the Christmas decorations lay scattered on the floor. Shattered pieces of the wreath, spilled cocoa pooling everywhere, and the lingering faint smell of alcohol from my father. Daisy sat on the sofa, hands clutching her pregnant belly, face pale and trembling. Joseph and Anna stood beside her, him patting her shoulder, her whispering prayers. Are you okay, honey? I rushed over, kneeling in front of Daisy, gently stroking her belly. She nodded weakly. I'm fine. Just scared. But suddenly her face contorted in pain, hands gripping her belly tighter. Nick, my stomach hurts so much. I think I'm going into labor. The contractions came fast and intense, uncontrollable. Daisy curled up, gasping for breath, sweat beading on her forehead. My heart nearly stopped. I realized immediately. Daisy was going into early labor, 2 weeks ahead of schedule. The doctor had said the baby would arrive early in the new year, but now, on this Christmas night after the chaos that had just unfolded, her mind was still in shock. "Daisy, hang in there, honey," I shouted, voice shaking. There was no time for panic or dwelling on what had happened. I turned to Joseph and Anna. "Mom, Dad, help me. We need to get her to the hospital now." Joseph nodded, his face pale but composed. "I'll get the car." Anna hurried to fetch a coat for Daisy, her voice trembling. "Stay calm, dear. God will protect you." We quickly helped Daisy up, wrapping her in a warm blanket. Her belly contracted relentlessly. Pained groans filled the house. I carried her to the car, snow falling on our heads, the wind biting cold against our skin. How could I let this happen? How could I let family conflict affect her at such a vulnerable time? We sped to the nearest hospital, about 15 minutes away. Christmas night was frigid. The streets were empty, lit only by dim streetlights and blanketed in white snow. I floored the accelerator, hands gripping the wheel, glancing in the rearview mirror at Daisy lying in the back. Joseph supporting her head, Anna praying nonstop. "Stay calm, honey. Breathe deeply," I reassured her, trying to keep my voice steady despite the fear gripping my heart. The hospital emerged in the darkness, its neon lights glowing brightly. I screeched to a stop at the emergency entrance and yelled, "Help! My wife is in early labor." Nurses rushed out with a wheelchair for Daisy. "How many weeks? Any complications?" they asked rapidly as they wheeled her in. 32 weeks, but she just went through a shock," I replied, voice panicked. Daisy was taken straight to the delivery room, the doors slammed shut behind her. Joseph, Anna, and I stood in the hospital hallway waiting in utter anxiety. The corridor was cold and sterile, filled with the strong smell of disinfectant and the beeping of machines. I paced back and forth, hands clenched, cold sweat pouring down despite the chill. "Son, sit down," Joseph said, trying to stay calm to encourage me. He patted my shoulder. "Daisy's strong and God will watch over her." Anna sat nearby, fingering her rosary beads, praying incessantly. "Lord, please protect my daughter and her baby," she whispered over and over, eyes closed tight. I sat down, mind spinning. How long had it been? An hour? 2? Every minute felt like a century. I thought about the baby, so small, not full term. Would everything be okay? And Daisy, how much pain was she in? Self-blame surged again. Christmas night was supposed to be peaceful. Now it had turned into a nightmare because of my biological parents. After hours of tension, 3 endless hours, the delivery room doors opened. The doctor emerged, removing her mask with a tired smile. "Congratulations! It's a healthy baby girl. Mother and child are safe." The newborn's first cry echoed from inside, shattering all fear and exhaustion. My heart burst, tears streamed down my face. Anna thanked God and cried along. Joseph hugged me tightly. We were allowed in to see them. Daisy lay there, exhausted but radiant, hair damp with sweat, eyes shining. "Nick, let me see our daughter," she whispered, squeezing my hand. The nurse brought the baby over, a tiny little being, pink-skinned, eyes squeezed shut, crying softly. For the first time, I held our child in my arms, bringing her close for Daisy to see, feeling an overwhelming sense of responsibility and love I'd never known before. She was so light, so warm, and I whispered, "Vivian, Daddy's little girl." That was the name we'd agreed on long ago, a promise of a new beginning. Vivian meaning life after all the storms. Daisy held my hand and whispered, "It was all worth the pain. Look how adorable she is." I nodded, tears rolling down. My in-laws stood quietly watching their granddaughter, eyes misty with pride and fulfillment, saying nothing but radiating contentment. Joseph gently stroked the baby's hair. She looks just like Daisy when she was little. Anna cried tears of joy. The small hospital room became our family's peaceful world, completely separated from the conflicts outside. We sat there, forgetting the chaotic Christmas night, forgetting my biological parents, forgetting the cold snow beyond the windows. There was only Vivian, our tiny baby crying for milk, and soft laughter filling the air. In the days that followed, the hospital became our temporary home. Daisy needed monitoring because of the early birth, and so did Vivian. She was small but strong, just needing extra warmth. I took a few days off from the gym to stay at the hospital full-time. I savored every simple moment. Changing Vivian's diaper with clumsy but loving hands, singing her to sleep in my hoarse voice, watching her yawn, seeing Daisy smile weakly but reassured as she nursed our daughter. "She looks just like you," Daisy teased, and we laughed. Joseph and Anna took turns bringing food from home. Hot chicken soup, fresh fruit. "Eat up, dear. Regain your strength," Anna said, her eyes glowing with happiness. Those moments were like healing medicine, washing away the memories of the argument. I thought about the future, going home with Vivian, teaching her to walk, watching her smile. I believed the biggest storms had passed, that from now on our little family would only know peace ahead. No more biological parents, no more drama, just pure love. At that time, I had no idea that this rare sense of completeness was only a brief lull. I thought I had finally protected my family, put everything in its right place. But that peace was more fragile than I imagined. Just as I allowed myself to breathe a sigh of relief, a serious crisis was quietly waiting, ready to strike my life at any moment. The first weeks with Vivian passed like a sweet dream, interspersed with sleepless nights and endless joy. Our tiny little girl, with her big round eyes and wide grins when full of milk, had become the center of our world. Daisy recovered quickly from the early birth, though she was still tired from the nights Vivian cried for feedings. I took a few more days off from the gym, delegating to my trusted trainer to devote all my time to the family. Every morning I woke up early, prepared Vivian's formula, and watched her coo in the wooden crib that Joseph had handmade. "Sleep well, Daddy's girl," I whispered, my heart full of warmth. Anna helped Daisy cook nutritious porridge, her voice gentle. "Eat up, dear. Stay strong for the baby." Joseph busied himself fixing little things around the house, the leaky faucet, the creaky window, smiling kindly. "It's a new house. It needs some care." We lived at a slower pace without rush or pressure. The house on the outskirts of Dover had truly become our home, with its lush green backyard and the lake sparkling under the spring sun. A month flew by in the blink of an eye. Vivian had grown chubbier, her cheeks rosy, and we decided to hold a small 1-month celebration for her. Not to show off, but simply to mark this milestone in our journey as parents. The party was cozy, held in our new home, with few guests. Just close family and a handful of friends, 2 trainers from the gym, Daisy's colleague, and a friendly neighbor couple. We decorated simply, soft pink balloons hanging loosely, a dining table with a homemade cake. Anna baked it. Daisy decorated with fresh fruit. No expensive wine, no loud music, just cheerful laughter and the aroma of baked goods filling the air. Daisy wore a loose dress, holding Vivian, beaming. "Today is your day, sweetheart." The baby slept peacefully in everyone's arms, her chubby cheeks oblivious to being the star of the party. Daisy's laughter rang out as she recounted Vivian's nighttime cries. In the middle of the night, she wails and Nick fumbles, putting the diaper on backward. Everyone burst into laughter. Joseph clapped. "Son, I was the same way back then." Anna gazed at her granddaughter with misty, happy eyes. "She looks just like Daisy when she was little." The sight of Vivian sleeping soundly, passed from arm to arm, filled the house with life. I stood in a corner watching the scene with a rare sense of fulfillment. The past months, full of turmoil from the pandemic, rejection by my biological parents, the chaotic wedding, the disastrous Christmas, now seemed distant, Believing our little family had finally turned to a peaceful chapter, I told myself, I've done it. Nothing can destroy this anymore. We cut the cake, toasted Vivian's health, and the party ended with warm laughter. As friends left, they said, "Your family is so happy, Nick." I hugged Daisy. "Thank you for everything." As night fell, everyone gradually retired. Joseph and Anna went to their downstairs room, tired but content. "It's been a long day. Good night, son." Daisy lulled Vivian to sleep in our room. The baby cooed for a moment before drifting off. I turned off the lights, lay beside my wife, listening to the steady breathing of mother and daughter. The house settled into rare silence after an emotionally full day. Outside, a gentle spring breeze rustled the leaves. I lay awake for a while, thinking about the future. How would Vivian grow up? Playful or gentle? The gym was thriving. Maybe I'd open a new branch. Filled with hope, I closed my eyes and fell into a deep sleep. But near midnight, my phone suddenly rang, the vibration piercing the silence. I jolted awake, reaching for it on the nightstand. The screen showed Louise Collins, my biological mother. My heart skipped a beat. The last time we spoke was that chaotic Christmas night when she had cried and pleaded before being asked to leave. Now, in the middle of the night, what could she want? I hesitated but answered, "Why are you calling so late?" Her voice came through trembling and broken, not coherent. "Nick, you and the family. Be careful. Get out of the house now. There's no time." Her words stumbled, panicked, mixed with heavy breathing. "Mom, what's going on? Why do we need to leave?" I sat up, voice urgent. But she only repeated, "Get out now. Listen to me." Then the call cut off abruptly, leaving a long beep. I called back immediately, but it rang endlessly with no answer. An indescribable unease surged through me, like a shadow enveloping everything. My mother warning us? What danger? I shook Daisy. "Wake up, honey. Something strange is happening." But before she could fully wake, just seconds later, I smelled a strange, acrid odor, burning, pungent smoke spreading from downstairs. My heart pounded wildly. Adrenaline surged. I rushed into the hallway and looked down the stairs. Smoke was rising from the lower floor, thick and black. I shouted, "Fire!" my voice echoing. No time to think about my mother's call or why the smoke had appeared. I dashed into the bedroom to wake Daisy, who was holding Vivian. "Wake up! Quick! We have to get out. The house is on fire." Daisy bolted awake, eyes wide with panic. She clutched the baby while I ran to Joseph and Anna's room, pounding on the door. "Mom, Dad, wake up. The house is on fire." Joseph jumped up, face ashen. Anna trembled as she threw on a coat. I directed everyone to leave immediately through the back escape route, the emergency exit I'd designed when buying the house for situations like this. "Follow me, out the back." Thick smoke quickly filled the hallways, stinging our eyes and making us cough violently. The fire alarm blared piercingly in the night, shrill like a death knell. I took Vivian from Daisy's arms, covering her with a blanket. The baby cried from the shock. Supporting Daisy, she was still weak from childbirth, while urging Joseph and Anna to move as fast as possible. "Hurry, Dad! Don't look back!" We ran through the back hallway, black smoke billowing behind us. Joseph coughed harshly. Anna gripped his hand. "Hold on tight," Daisy cried. "Is our baby okay?" I reassured my wife. "She's just scared. We'll be fine." The whole family escaped safely in the nick of time, through the back door to the garden, standing shivering in the cold night, remnants of Christmas snow numbing our feet. We looked back. Flames erupted fiercely from the lower floor, devouring the house that had just been filled with laughter. The fire roared red, black smoke billowing into the sky, explosions of popping sounds from burning furniture. Daisy held Vivian tightly in tears. Joseph and Anna stood frozen, stunned, not yet comprehending what was happening. "Our home, reduced to ashes," Anna whispered, hand over her mouth. I stood motionless, my mother's phone call echoing in my mind like a belated warning. What did she know? Why had she called at just the right moment? But now wasn't the time to think. I called the fire department. Hello. Our house is on fire. The address. Sirens wailed in the distance. In the glowing red light reflecting on our little daughter's face, Vivian crying, cheeks flushed. I realized that what I'd just lost wasn't only the house but the fragile sense of security I thought I'd finally secured. We stood there in the backyard, on a thin layer of lingering snow from winter, the cold wind biting our skin, watching our house, the symbol of our new beginning, being consumed by flames. I held Daisy close and whispered, "It's okay, honey. As long as we're safe, that's all that matters." But inside, my mind was in turmoil. My biological mother's phone call still echoed. She had warned us, but why? What did she know? Was this an accident or deliberate? Anxiety surged like a wave, and I knew this night was just the beginning of another nightmare. The fire scene was cordoned off that very night. Firefighters arrived quickly, spraying white jets of water to extinguish the blaze, their shouts echoing in the midnight air. They contained the fire in time so the house didn't collapse entirely. But the damage was severe in the garage and back hallway, where the fire had started. The machinery and items in the garage were charred black, walls blackened with soot, the acrid smell of smoke permeating everything. Police taped off the area, camera flashes flickering as they documented the scene. An investigator, a middle-aged man, tall and thin with sharp eyes, approached us immediately. "Mr. Collins, we need a preliminary statement." I told him everything. The 1-month celebration party, the strange call from my mother, the burning smell, then the smoke. He took notes, voice grave. "This doesn't look like a normal accident. We'll investigate." We were taken to a nearby hotel for temporary shelter. The next morning, the investigator returned with initial findings. Signs of arson. They detected traces of accelerant, like gasoline or oil, in the garage, an unnatural ignition point with evidence of intentional starting, not electrical fault or ordinary accident. "Someone deliberately targeted your family," he said flatly. My heart sank. Someone deliberate? I handed over all the security footage. The front doorbell camera and the backyard garage camera. We sat in the hotel room reviewing the video on the police laptop. Grainy images under streetlight, a figure in a baseball cap and mask, tall and thin, appearing near the garage at the exact time of the fire. He furtively poured something, likely the accelerant, then lit it and fled. A car parked nearby, an old gray-silver sedan, sped away. The gate and the car sent chills down my spine. They were too familiar. It was my father's build, Kenneth, and the car matched the one he always drove. "Do you recognize anyone?" the investigator asked. I nodded shakily. "That man might be my father." The words cut like a knife, but the evidence was clear. Anxiety spiked. If it was him, why? What motive? After the fire, our family temporarily moved to a small rented house nearby. A modest bungalow on the outskirts of Dover, safe and quiet enough for Daisy and baby Vivian. Not as luxurious as the old villa, but with a small yard, cozy bedrooms, and importantly, far from the fire scene. We salvaged what we could from the ashes. A few clothes, family photos, Vivian's crib, hearts aching. Daisy suffered psychological trauma from the shock. In those first nights, she jolted awake, imagining the smell of smoke, sitting up in panic, always clutching Vivian tightly. Joseph and Anna Miller were still reeling from the house fire. As elderly people, they tried to comfort and help Daisy care for Vivian. Joseph carrying the baby around the yard, singing lullabies in his deep voice. Anna cooking soup, cleaning the house, her voice trembling. God will protect us. But their eyes were red when thinking of the lost home, where they had begun a peaceful retirement. Meanwhile, I cooperated closely with authorities to uncover the fire's cause. Every day I went to the police station providing more details. The history of conflict with my biological parents, from the loan refusal, the humiliating wedding, to the chaotic Christmas. They were jealous of my new house, of our stable life, I said bitterly. My mother's warning call became key. I drove with the investigator to Alexandria, Virginia, to her house. She opened the door, face pale, eyes red as if sleepless. We sat in the familiar living room, where I'd once been rejected, and questioned her. What did you know about the fire? Why did you call right when it happened to us? Louise initially evaded, voice stuttering. I was just worried about you. I had a bad premonition. But under pressure, she grew panicked, statements contradictory. I don't know anything, or it was just a feeling. Finally, she broke down crying, confessing part of the truth. She hadn't set the fire herself, but overheard Kenneth saying terrifying things before leaving. Let's see if he can keep that house. He has to pay for being unfilial. She called to warn because she sensed something big, but it was too late. He had already gone. Her statement was the final piece. Kenneth was arrested soon after, hiding in a motel hundreds of miles away near the Virginia border. He was charged with arson and endangering lives. During interrogation, he still tried to blame me, growling, "He's the unfilial one. I was just teaching him a lesson." But evidence piled up. Fingerprints on an accelerant can found near the scene. Street cameras capturing his car near Dover that night, and Louise's testimony. The motive was clear. Jealousy and control. He couldn't bear seeing me succeed while ignoring my birth family, living happily with my in-laws. With complete evidence, he faced criminal prosecution plus a no-contact order with my family pending trial. I received the papers feeling relief mixed with pain. My biological father, the once pillar, now a prisoner. The trial took place a few months later in a Delaware courtroom. The atmosphere was tense, suspenseful like a crime movie. I sat in the witness seat, Daisy beside me holding a giggling Vivian, oblivious to it all. Kenneth sat in the defendant's chair, gaunt and avoiding eye contact. The prosecutor presented evidence. Security video, Louise's testimony, accelerant traces. The defense lawyer tried to argue. He lost control in a moment of anger, a temporary emotional outburst. But the jury wasn't convinced. After 3 days of arguments, the verdict. Kenneth sentenced to 12 years in prison, full compensation for damages, hundreds of thousands of dollars for the burned house, and a permanent criminal record. A humiliating fall for someone who lived for appearances. He who once prided himself on Harrison's wedding and family honor now bowed his head before the court. I looked at him, heart aching but without regret. He turned to me one last time, eyes red. Nicholas, I'm sorry, son, but it was too late. My mother truly awakened for the first time after the trial. She realized she had stayed silent too long, letting her husband's favoritism and dominance destroy everything. She requested a meeting through the lawyer, too afraid to come directly. We met at a neutral cafe. She sat across from me, hands trembling on her teacup. Nick, I'm sorry. I chose the wrong side, and I've lost you. She cried, recounting years of silently enduring Kenneth, prioritizing Harrison to avoid his anger. I listened, heart a tangle of pain and exhaustion. I didn't retaliate with words or revisit the past. I spoke slowly, calmly enough for her to understand it wasn't fleeting anger. Mom, I don't hate you. But for me now, Daisy and Vivian's safety is absolute priority. If you truly want to mend things, it has to start with respecting my boundaries. No demands, no manipulation, and no using Harrison to pressure me. Mom bowed her head, tears falling silently. After a moment, she spoke, voice trembling but clearer. I know I've been silent too long, let things go too far. I don't dare ask for forgiveness right away. I just hope you'll give me a chance to start over little by little in a way that's safe for you. She nodded as if reminding herself, I promise. I'll respect what you've said. We hugged one last time. No lingering resentment, but not yet peace. I knew the wound was too deep to heal immediately, but at least for the first time it had stopped bleeding. On an autumn afternoon when we had moved back into our rebuilt house, identical to the old one but sturdier with enhanced security, we stood in the backyard. I watched Vivian, now crawling, grinning widely as she chased a ball. Daisy sat nearby, hand on her belly. We were expecting our second child. Joseph and Anna smiled kindly, both grandparents singing lullabies to Vivian. I looked at my little family and my in-laws, the ones who had stood by me from the lowest point, from the $50,000 loan to the night of the fire, and understood that blood doesn't automatically mean love. True family is presence in hardship, not demands in success. I realized that money can save a business from bankruptcy, but it can't save a family on its own. The only thing that can is boundaries. When boundaries are clearly set, people know what they're allowed and what they can't cross. Without boundaries, family ties easily turn into prolonged harm. I also learned that filial piety isn't unconditional endurance. Love doesn't mean allowing others to control, impose, or hurt you in the name of family. When sacrifice flows only one way, it's no longer devotion, it's erosion. And above all, when someone threatens my safety and my family's, forgiveness is no longer just emotional. Forgiveness doesn't include giving them another chance to do the same. Some doors, once closed, are to protect those behind them, and I have no regrets for closing them.